All right, everyone, welcome back to Crypto Brain. And before we dive into today's market analysis, make sure you subscribe to the channel because here we break down crypto movements using logic data and market structure rather than hype. And if you want to stay ahead of major market shifts, this is exactly where you want to be. Now, today's discussion revolves around something that has started appearing clearly across the charts, and it involves the token, content reference, OAS, index, and Toshi describe as a potential early breakout structure, combined with something even more important, whale positioning, and when those two elements start appearing together, experienced market participants begin paying very close attention. Over the last several trading sessions, the first signal that started standing out was volume behavior, because in financial markets, volume is the footprint of capital. It tells us when real money begins centering a market. And recently we've seen a noticeable shift where trading volume begins expanding while price action starts stabilizing and pushing upward, which is often one of the earliest signals that liquidity is beginning to move underneath the surface of the market. Retail traders usually respond after price moves, but whales operate very differently. Whales position themselves before the move happens, and that behavior is exactly what analysts are watching right now, because several wallet clusters appear to be accumulating during consolidation phases, rather than during hype-driven spikes, and this type of behavior is considered strategic accumulation because large investors prefer entering positions quietly without triggering immediate price explosions. When a token spends time inside a consolidation zone and large holders begin absorbing supply slowly, it creates what traders call a liquidity base, and once that liquidity base becomes strong enough, the next phase of the market structure of 10 begins, which is the breakout phase where price starts moving more aggressively due to reduced selling pressure. Now, there is another factor beginning to circulate within the broader discussion, and that factor is exchange exposure, specifically the possible ecosystem interaction with content reference OAX equals 1. Binance trading platforms in the global crypto market, and whenever a token begins centering the conversation around major exchange visibility, analysts immediately begin calculating what that could mean for liquidity expansion. The reason this matters is very simple. Accessibility. When a token becomes accessible to millions of global traders through a major exchange ecosystem, the number of potential buyers expands dramatically. And once buyer accessibility increases, liquidity pools deepen, trading volume accelerates, and price discovery can begin moving at a much faster pace than before. Historically, many crypto assets that experienced strong rallies followed a similar pattern: first quiet accumulation, then visibility expansion, and finally liquidity acceleration. And what makes the current Toshi structure interesting is that elements of the first stage appear to already be forming, while discussion around the second stage is beginning to emerge within the market narrative. But to properly understand the potential magnitude of any move, we'll need to examine the market cap logic, because market capitalization determines how much capital is required to push an asset upward, and compared with large established crypto assets, Toshi still operates within a relatively smaller market capitalization bracket, which means that when new liquidity enters the system, the percentage impact on price can become significantly larger. This is one of the fundamental reasons early stage scan experience extremely rapid movements during discovery cycles, because the amount of capital required to create meaningful price shifts is dramatically small, compared with large cap assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Now, if we combine the signals currently forming around the market, we start seeing a very interesting structure appear. First, we observe a rising trading volume. Second, we observe behavior that resembles whale accumulation. And third, we observe increasing market discussion around liquidity expansion and exchange visibility. When these three elements begin aligning simultaneously, the market often enters what professional traders refer to as a discovery phase, which is the period where price begins searching for a new valuation level, and during discovery phase, volatility typically increases significantly because the market is attempting to determine the next major price equilibrium. However, experienced analysts always remain cautious because volatility works in both directions. Strong upside moves can occur, but corrections can also appear quickly, which is why disciplined traders focus more on structural signals rather than emotional reactions. Right, now the structural signals surrounding Toshi are exactly what analysts are watching. And very carefully if trading volume continues expanding, if whale accumulation behavior remains consistent, if broader liquidity access begins increasing, then the probability of a stronger breakout scenario gradually becomes higher. And historically, the most explosive markets rarely begin when everyone is already paying attention. They usually begin quietly, while only a small group of observers notice the signals developing beneath the surface. That is precisely why many traders are now monitoring this structure, because if the liquidity narrative continues developing and if accumulation remains active, the market could eventually transition from quiet positioning into full public attention, and once that stage begins, momentum can accelerate extremely quickly. For now, the smartest approach is observation, watching volume behavior, tracking large wallet activity, and monitoring any signals that suggest deeper liquidity entering the ecosystem, because those are the indicators that usually appear before major market expansions. And if the current structure continues evolving, the DIITs now the coming weeks could become extremely interesting for content reference. Toshi G Crypto Brain. If you want more analytical crypto breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay informed, stay analytical, and remember, in crypto, the biggest moves usually begin long before the majority of the market even realizes what is happening.